Good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yes, Senator. Senator, we don't have a quorum yet.
I apologize for not being there in person. As you may have heard or may not have heard, I was tested positive yesterday for COVID. I am convinced that I got it. Well, I know I got it when I was in Tallahassee. I don't know whether it was spreading through Broward Days or FAC. Councilmember Lincoln, I hope that you are healthy. Because I saw you at FAC. By the way, I'm alone in my room. I was just wearing the mask for effect.
Okay, so
I have been sentenced to purgatory. Actually, my wife has moved out. She has moved into one of our upstairs bedrooms until I'm better. Although she's taking care of me, very nice. It's 10:01. Normally I give another couple of minutes for people to arrive. But do we have everybody that we are expecting currently, Isabel?
no, Senator, we do not, and we do not have a quorum. Because we have two members here and we need a third one to go to
Yes.
executive committee.
You're close, but not exactly, Senator.
Are we expecting that we will have an
We
additional?
have a quorum now. Councilmember Fur has arrived, quorum is present.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Team, as you may or may not have heard, I am not there in person. I tested positive for COVID yesterday, which also means you will not see me tomorrow at the commission meeting live, although I will, of course, be calling in.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, boy.
Oh, and is it your birthday?
It was
Oh, when was your birthday?
yesterday.
Happy
birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Beam. Happy birthday to
Happy
you.
birthday to you.
Thank you.
As you can tell, I did not
Starting to get a little
major
big.
I've been on one candle for a while now.
I think it's.
And the bets are whether I can blow it out.
My last one was one of the biggies, 65. It used to be Social Security age, not anymore.
Well, Senator, we have a quorum. I need our finance director, because that's pretty much what we're doing.
Okay, tell me when you're ready to start.
Okay. Yes.
Sean, you can hear us well? You can hear us okay?
I can hear you fine. Good
Perfect,
morning,
thank you.
Sam. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well, Senator. A pleasure.
Yes.
All right. Isabel, are you ready?
Yes,
Morning.
sir. I'm standing, I'm looking at the flag.
Great. All right.
One of our
In
council
that case,
members.
if I can ask everybody to rise. Councilmember Furr, will you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Kathy, will you please call the roll?
Bailey? Kaplan?
Here.
Cates?
Here.
Corradino?
Here.
Burr?
Here.
Garcia?
Present.
Gilbert? Goldberg?
Here.
Borland? Kaufman?
If that's Kaufman, I'm here.
Thank you. Lincoln?
Good morning here.
Morning.
McGee? Ross?
He's on, he's not unmuted, but
I see Mayor Ross present.
Okay, Udine?
Udine is here by Zoom. Can't be there live.
Davila? Wynn? Villaboy?
Councilmember?
Geller?
Here.
And Councilmember Horman?
Here.
Do we have a quorum?
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum under the rules of procedure and under the statute 120.525 subsection 4 on which to proceed. with the membership being present physically in the room, as well as membership being present on the gallery and having been accounted for through the taking of the roll. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. For those of you that have just joined, my apologies for not being present in person. I tested positive for COVID yesterday. And we do have a time certain at 11 o'clock. I'm fairly confident that we will have completed our agenda prior to 11 o'clock, but let's see. First, has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes of the prior meeting? And are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing no additions or corrections, is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
Okay, since that was in stereo, can I ask Isabel to tell me who moved and who seconded?
I think it was in perfect unison. The two voices I heard were Councilmember Fern, I think Councilmember Borland. So,
Right.
yeah, so we can, it was, okay, so it was
All right.
Councilmember Borland motion.
Okay, seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Show the minutes adopted without objection. Let's now proceed to the financial report from Leo Brawowski-Soldi. Leo, you're up.
Good morning, Chair Geller. Thank you. Good morning, council members, staff, Isabel and Sam. Thank you very much for having me here. Happy New Year to everyone. I know it's a little late in the year, but it's the first time we see each other, so let's move on to the financials. So first, we're closing the fiscal year. The first two pages are the balance sheet and the statement of revenues. The Prosperity Institute finished the fiscal year as of 9/30/2023 with $43,765.72 in the asset section, as well as liabilities on fund balance. If we go to the statement of revenues, that's page 2, we will see there was an excess of revenues for $2,813.52. Now moving on, page 3, that's the end of the calendar year as of 12/31/2023. The total assets were $48,675.73, as well as liabilities and fund balance. And the statement of revenue finished the calendar year with $4,910.01 in excess.
What are we gonna do with all that money?
We're planning on hiring someone really cheap.
May I ask if there are any questions? Well, not may I ask. Are there any questions for Leo? Are there any questions for Leo? If not, is there a motion to adopt the financials?
So moved.
Approve the financials. Moved by Mayor Ross, seconded by, was that Senator Garcia I heard?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any debate or discussion? Seeing no debate or discussion, all those in favor of approving financials, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Show the financials adopted unanimously. We are now on the consent agenda for our comp plan reviews. I will ask,
Senator,
yes,
if you, not to interrupt you, but I will, just for the record, just, this is the first meeting before the actual regular meeting of the council,
The Prosperity
the
Institute.
Prosperity
I'm
Institute.
sorry. I
Yes.
apologize. I have been reading from the wrong agenda. This is one of the problems with not being there in person.
Thank you, Senator. Apologize for interruption.
No, thank you for doing so. And may I ask, let me go back to my last email where I have the.
Senator, if I could help through the chair, so I think all of y'all know the Southeast Florida Regional Prosperity Institute is a 501c3 of the council. It's a vehicle for undertaking things that you cannot do as a government agency. And for example, in this year, we were able to accept sponsorships for the recycling conference through the Prosperity Institute, which we would not have been able to accept funds as a government agency. So it's a very good vehicle, different projects come up. And that is the purpose of this. We do different things, but we keep it going because it's a tool in our toolbox.
Is that how it came out so even?
I suppose so. Yes.
Coincidence, Commissioner.
Yes,
Just
yes.
total coincidence.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I have been told that, again, the sole reason this was created was to accept grants that we would not be able to accept as a government.
Right. In the past, we've received some private foundation grants through the Prosperity Institute. And so again, it's a good tool in the toolbox.
Okay.
So with that, Senator, I have nothing further to report and,
Should I do a motion to adjourn?
well, we have public comment period.
Public.
If there's anyone
Should it be-
who wants to do that.
Cool.
Thank you, Isabel. Are there any questions of our executive director? Are there any questions? If not, is there any public comment?
There is none.
Okay, if there is no questions and no public comment, Isabel, did you have anything else? Or Sam, did you have anything else before I accept the motion to adjourn?
No, Senator, thank you for the opportunity. Nothing
Are
further.
you gonna gavel it out?
No.
In that case, Commissioner Burr has moved to adjourn this
Second.
meeting of the South Florida Regional Prosperity Institute annual meeting, seconded by, that sounded like Mayor Roth. Is there any debate, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Show of adjournment. All right. We will now revert to where I had inadvertently taken us to, which is the consent agenda for comprehensive plan amendment reviews. I will.
Chair, Mr. Chair, you'll forgive the interruption, but once you adjourn the Prosperity Institute, you'll have to reconvene and open the Regional Planning Council regular meeting as provided for by law when you have the opportunity.
All right, so I hereby declare the meeting of the South Florida Regional Planning Council in order at 10:12 a.m. I will ask Kathy to take the roll again, this time of the SFRPC.
Bailey? Kaplan?
Here.
Kate?
Here.
Corradino?
Here.
Burr?
Here.
Garcia?
Here.
Gilbert? Goldberg?
Here.
Borland?
Here.
Hoffman?
Here.
Lincoln?
Here.
McGee? Ross?
Here.
Udine?
Here.
Davila? Wynn? Villavoy? Geller?
Here. And assuming no one has left, if we had a quorum for the last meeting, we should have a quorum for this meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, and legally, Senator, if you will, the statute.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Sam?
Senator. Yeah, thank you, Senator. For the record, again, the statute that governs your organizational behavior, which is section 120, 525, is also in play yet again, and you meet the legal requirements to have a public meeting under the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. We've already adopted the minutes, but we did so improperly. So since we already know that there is no debate, let me ask one more time for a motion. Please show that motion made by the same people that made the prior motion. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the prior meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please show the minutes adopted. Leo, if you will return to the podium for 5 seconds. We have already adopted the report, but we did so improperly during the wrong meeting. So are there any questions for the financials that you've already heard?
I'm sorry, Senator. We have a different financial for the council meeting than for the Prosperity Institute.
Oh,
So
okay.
we need Leo to go ahead and present the financials for this meeting.
I thought that they passed too quickly, and that the report was too short. So again, much harder to do this by Zoom as opposed to in person. Leo, give us our financials, please.
Good morning, everyone. Long time no see. So these are the financials for the the council. We go on page one, we will see, the balance sheet, for the general fund. We'll see that the assets decreased in $87,974 as well as liabilities on fund balance. If we look into the federal, state, and local fund, this one decreased in $14,794 in the assets as well as liabilities on fund balance. In the revolving loan funds, we'll see a decrease of $5,427 in the assets as well as liabilities on fund balance. And the Prosperity Institute increased in $146 in assets as well as liabilities on fund balance. If we go to page two, we will see that the total revenues are 53%. That's regarding collections, and it includes membership dues. That's why we're so high. And the total expenses are 24% when the percentage of the fiscal year lapse is 25%. So, we're on a good track.
Thank
I have a
you.
question.
Are there, Commissioner Furr, you're recognized, sir.
Sure. On the, when I see the final numbers from earlier, from the Prosperity Institute,
Correct.
when you said there was 4,910 excess revenue, why didn't that match this part that we just got?
What, I'm sorry?
What we just got here, the number says we have increase. It's not given the, do these match? Are these matching?
Well, they do not match because there were adjustments,
Okay.
but,
But this is only
by the end
3
of,
weeks ago. So,
well, but it's a different period because one is the fiscal year and the other one is the calendar year. And in this case, after closing the, fiscal year, there were adjustments done.
okay.
So, but the figures are pretty straightforward. I think there was a grant that was passed through from the Prosperity Institute to the, not a
I
grant.
agree, the sponsorship.
A
fees on the
sponsorship.
Recycling,
Yeah, those-
$7,500.
correct. And those monies passed on to the council. Tonight.
That's
That's a great operation. Thank you very much.
Did that fully answer your question, Commissioner Furr? Commissioner Furr, did that
Yes.
fully answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Are there any additional questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the financials?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Furr, seconded
Second.
by, I couldn't tell who,
Garcia.
seconded by Senator Garcia. Is there any debate? Seeing no debate, all those in favor of adopting the financials, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show the financial is adopted unanimously. Now we are on the consent agenda for the comp plan amendment reviews. First, we will be on the proposed ones, and I will ask Sam to read the proposed comp plan amendment review calendar, after which I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Geller, if you will, item 4C are the proposed items, and they are as follows. They are conducted as a matter of public hearing under the rules and the statute. First of which is Broward County 23-04 ESR, Monroe County 23-04A CSE. Next up, Monroe County 23-05 ACSE. Next up, City of Homestead 23-02 ESR. Next is the City of Key West 23-03A CSC. Next and next to last is the City of Oakland Park at 23-02 ER. And last but not least, the City of Tamarack at 23-101 ESR, all of which are public hearing items and are on the consent agenda for your public review and consumption. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Geller.
Thank you, sir. Before I open the public hearing, are there any questions on any of these items? Are there any recusals? All right, if not, Kathy, can you tell me if there is anyone present in person on the public hearing on this item?
No, I have nobody here. Nobody's
Okay,
nobody on the website either.
Well, that was my next question, but all right, so there's nobody present either in person or on the website on any of the proposed items. Therefore, show the public hearing open and closed. It's now in order to vote. All those in favor of
We don't have a
adopting-
motion.
All right, again, it's.
I'll make it.
In person. Mayor Ross moves to approve the proposed comp plan amendment reviews. Is there a second? I thought I heard
I
somebody
think
second.
Greg made a motion, right?
Yeah, Ross made the motion,
I'll second it.
seconded by Commissioner Furr. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Show it adopted unanimously. We are now on the consent comp plan amendment reviews for the adopted items. Please note that the asterisks include the required property rights amendments, which were adopted by statute requiring every local government to have these. I will now ask Mr. Gorin to read the adopted consent plan amendment review calendar, after which we'll have the public hearing.
Thank you, Senator Chair Geller. If you will, for public hearing items, these are the adopted land use comprehensive plan amendments, and they are as follows. Broward County 23-01 ESR. Next up, Broward County 23-02 ESR. Next, the City of Coral Springs 23-01 ESR. Next, the City of Florida City 23-01 ESR. Next, the City of Hallandale Beach at 23-02 ESR. Next, another City of Hallandale Beach item 23-03 ESR. Next, the City of Hialeah Gardens 23-03 ESR. And last but not least, the City of Hollywood at 23-02 ESR, all of which have been adopted by the appropriate statutes and are before the council this morning for your review and consideration and for input by the public, should there be members of the public who can be either oppose or support each item. Thank you, Mr. Senator Geller. On the record, you adopt this.
Thank you, Mr. Gorin. Before I open the public hearing, are there any questions, comments, or refusals? Seeing none, public hearing is now open. Is there anyone there, either in person or online, who wishes to comment on any of these items?
No, there is not.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, my apologies. Dennis.
Okay. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Ross, seconded by
Orland.
who?
Orland.
Seconded by Councilmember Corwin, or Commissioner Corwin. Horwin. All those in favor of adopting the adopted comprehensive plan amendment reviews, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show them adopted unanimously. We are now on D, regional issues, comp plan amendment review. There are none. E, nominating committee report, election of officers. We held a meeting of the nominating committee. Vice Mayor Kaufman, who is currently running for mayor of Key West, has asked to be bumped down to is it secretary or treasurer? Which is the
Secretary, Senator, Secretary.
To secretary. Also, it is my understanding that Commissioner Furr. So the nominating committee voted to recommend I take a final term as chair and move everybody else up and move Commissioner Kaufman back to the bottom. He is currently running for mayor of Key West and is concerned that either he will not win, which is not what we hope will happen. And if he doesn't win, he won't be on the council. And if he does win, that he is concerned that he may not have sufficient time and wants to see. So also, Commissioner Furr, under that scenario, would move up to the position of president-elect. However, he would be mayor of Broward County at the time. So he has requested that Senator Garcia leapfrog him up to the first vice chair and that he stay in his current position. Sam, since I'm not there, can you read the proposed can you read the proposed slate, and then I see Councilmember Lincoln has her hand up. But Sam, do you have a copy of the
Yes.
proposed slate in front of you? And if so, can you read it?
With your permission, Senator Chair Geller, in the record is agenda item 4E. And the discussion which you just brought forth there as a presenter at the January 12th nominating committee meeting. The layout of the slate would look like the following, if you will. Nominating committee recommends the following slate for 2024. Chair, Steve Geller from Broward County. The first vice chair, Beam for Broward County.
No, sir. No, that's being switched. First vice chair will be Senator Garcia.
So be it. And then Beam for as the second vice chair. Treasurer, Michelle Lincoln from Monroe County. Secretary Sam Kaufman from Monroe County Municipal. And then as the rules require, the immediate past chair in place would still be Mario Bailey, who's the governor's appointee under the rules. Thank you, Chair.
And after the meeting, you and I need to have a discussion on the immediate past chair. Councilmember Lincoln, you're recognized, ma'am. Councilmember Lincoln.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. And thank you for your service as our chair. And I hope you are feeling better soon. And I hope now that I'm in Tallahassee and have been here that I don't get that COVID.
I'll tell you, when I was in the legislature almost every year when I was in session, I would get sick. The famous Tallahassee crud.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to thank our nominating committee for taking the time to create this new slate. I just personally have some concerns that this is the third year in a row that we have the exact same executive committee, and I'm concerned about the process and our viability as a regional council if we're not rotating people through the system, and that as some of us might be getting ready to term out or might not be running again for an office, that who are we leaving to be able to fill these executive membership roles? And I feel that this is a regional council that should be under new leadership every year. It's sort of like our county, we pass the gavel every November. And some years, like the year I was the mayor, I didn't want to give up the gavel. And we kind of laughed and joked at the photos in the newspaper that it really did show me not handing over that gavel. But I knew that that's the process. And I know that when you have a new leader in this position, you get new ideas and you get to see a different vision, and you bring in new members. Like looking at the table right now, you have Councilwoman Horland, you have Joseph Corradino, you have people who I believe should have an opportunity to sit on this executive board and not just have it be myself and the four others that have been on here for 3 years in a row without any movement. So again, I greatly appreciate the executive committee and the nominating committee. I just wish that you all would take another look at this and let that gavel get passed and let new leadership take over and bring in some new blood to keep this organization viable. Mr. Gorin, I don't know if I need to make a motion to do that, if I'm just going to yield the floor and let anyone else who might want to weigh in on this. And I don't know, Mr. Gorin, can you give me some advice here?
Councilmember Lincoln, when you're done, I will ask if there's other comments. So
thank you. Then I yield the floor. Thank you. And I'm saying all this again very respectfully.
I understand. By the way, should it matter to anyone, this is, if elected, this would be my final term. Having said that, is there additional debate? Are there additional debate or comments? Going.
I think there'll be a couple. Yeah. I appreciate what is Michelle? What is your title these days? Commissioner. I don't know if you're mayor or not. Anyway, but I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I mean, I think Chair Geller is doing a great job on this. And I don't mind stepping back at all. I mean, if anybody wants to do that, it's fine. So You know, believe me, I'm gonna have my hands full and I'm turned down. So, you know, I've only got 3 more years. So I like the idea of bringing people up so that they're ready to go. So, I mean, I don't mind keeping this slated as it is, but, for the next year, I think that's a really good idea of trying to get some other people in there. As it is, I think I'm going back to second chair, and I can go back to third or fourth or fifth chair, which will be fine. But but I mean, I'd love to see Denise in there, or Frank, or, you know, Greg, you know. I think it's a good time to bring some other people on.
Senator Garcia, followed by Commissioner Cates, then followed by Commissioner Udine.
Yeah, Commissioner, I don't disagree with you. I don't think anyone disagrees with you. I do think that what we have before us right now is a good slate. And I'm going to be voting for it, but I do think that we should bringing people up and reaching out, not only the ones that we have part of our council, but bringing more people into the council itself. And I think it's important that we start doing that. And look, I'll tell you right now, I'll commit to you to start looking around and seeing more elected officials, see if we can get more people into this organization so we can keep on growing it. So, but as it stands right now, I think the slate is good, and we'll go forward and we'll make sure we keep on growing in and bringing in new blood for us. I'm with you on that.
Thank you, Senator. Commissioner Cates, followed by Commissioner Udine.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Lincoln with this. I mean, the state legislature just is moving forward with term limits for county commissioners. In Monroe County, we don't have term limits. The city of Key West has term limits. And I think I want to ask Mr. Gorman if
okay, Mayor Ross, you have to. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, sir, please continue.
The policy of the council is to replace the chairman every year. Is that what's done in the past? And this is going to be the 4th year of the same chairman. And it's difficult to bring this discussion forward. And because we're all friends here and we're working hard, we're volunteering to help the community. So it's nothing against anyone. But if it's a policy and it's been history of it, I think 3 terms is a long time, and I think it's time to move other people on.
Chair, may I respond with your permission?
Of course.
Thank you. A couple of observations that are consistent with your question, Commissioner, as well as Commissioner Lincoln's. You are guided by state law. You're also guided by a statement of organization. I happen to have been around, as was Isabel, when the statement of organization actually was created, as well as amended. Yes, you were 11.
It was created.
You were 11.
Yes. I was here when it was amended.
Yes, I was here when it was created, which is a little scary. But the statement of organization is actually the actual rules and policies that used to be in the Florida Administrative Code that were guideposts for the organization that were shifted by state law some years ago into your local rules. There's legal meaning to that, and I don't mean to digress too long for the record, but they are your rules. The statement of organization was amended only once in recent years in 2021 for some tightening and some housekeeping issues. But they are your rules. You get to interpret those rules. You get to implement those rules and to modify those rules. Whether you amend the rules or you interpret them to the extent that you would choose to, that may be an interpretation of the rules. To be clear, and you're accurate, Commissioner Cates, Section 7.0 of the rules says the following. The regular January meeting shall be the annual meeting of the council and shall be for the purpose of electing the new officers and conducting such other business as may come before the members. The council shall elect from its membership the following officers: chair, first vice chair, second vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. It is the express intent of this provision that at all times there shall be a balanced representation among the member governments and governor's appointees as members of the executive committee, so that there is at least one county or municipal representative from each county. Each member so elected shall serve 1 year or until re-elected or a successor is elected. It is the intent of the council that executive committee members shall be advanced in his or her respective positions each year, so long as such council member continues to serve as an appointed member, from secretary to treasurer, treasurer to second vice chair to first vice chair to chair, in that order. So I must, on the record, indicate that that is your rule. That is a rule that you've adopted. It has not been modified, but it has been interpreted by this council severally over the past number of years. I know that Senator Geller had a shortened opportunity some years ago. He was becoming the mayor of Broward County, sought a pass, as I recall, on the record, which was given to him so he could then seek the chairmanship here after his mayorship was concluded at Broward County. So just to dignify the inquiry being made by you, Commissioner Cates, and by Commissioner Lincoln, this is your rule. It does say what it says, but I'm just the lawyer here. I don't get to interpret those rules unless you otherwise find a way to get to a different answer. The slate before you has been conducted through the process of a nominating committee, which Senator Geller duly and legally created and created membership to that nominating committee, which met on January the 12th. They did their job legally. They promoted and supported a slate which is before you. That slate is legally available to be voted on this morning. Whether you would choose as a matter of policy to make changes in that discussion or to seek adjustments for those who are in the slate, that's certainly a matter which is within your legal authority to conduct this morning. I hope that answers the question. If not, I'm happy to try.
Can I comment on that, Chairman?
Of course.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cates, you recognize, sir.
I just want to say, since that is the policy, that I would like for us to go back and look at this again and get a chance to move more people up. And while they have opportunities, some will be up for re-election, or they might not be re-elected, or they might not serve again. And it's important that we have those views in the executive council for the next year. That's my opinion. And I think maybe Commissioner Lincoln asked to make a motion for that. If she does,
After the debate is over, I'll
I just would say I would second it if she does.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
By the way, let me make a quick comment for calling Councilmember Udine. Actually, everybody is moving up, with the exception of Vice Mayor Kaufman. Everybody is moving up one position. Councilmember Udine, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Senator. I just wanted to speak as a member of the nominating commission that met on January 12th. I understand and respect the opposing and different sides to this debate, but I think that there's something to be said about some continuity in moving this agency forward. I think that the slate that we have does in fact respect that and move everyone up. Senator Geller's indicated that he's not going to do another term. Then we would have, newer people that are coming up here, but I'd prefer to have somebody a little bit with more experience being the chair of this commission, as opposed to turning this over, not in a derogatory way, to staff with all the power on this. I think Senator Geller's done a good job. I think there's been some powerful and positive meetings as we've moved forward. So that was my thought on the slate as we had. There were all kinds of new people that were added into the rotation. We were just kind of keeping it in abeyance for 1 year because there were different things with different people with drop and whatnot. So I thought that it was the way to go on this. And I will be supporting this slate as read by Attorney Gorin, that we decided at the nominating committee with that change for Commissioner Furr, that we also talked about at the nominating committee in the event he wanted to push back a year because of his mayorship or potential mayorship, I guess, because we're also, on a different sunshine board. But I'm supporting the slate as stated in the original meeting, with all comments duly respected.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Chair Geller, Councilmember Goldberg put in the chat that he would like to be considered for executive committee at some point.
Okay. Are there any additional questions or comments?
I guess I'll
not,
weigh in with one thought.
Who's speaking?
Commissioner Garcia's point about
Commissioner Kaplan speaking.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia's point about bringing in more people seems very important to me. I think we used to do a better job at soliciting, particularly from the county commissions, new blood. And I think for a period of time, we were more successful at doing that than we have been lately. Looking at the attendees in today's meeting, a lot of us have been around here for a long time. And we have in the past contributed off of the executive.
We're just gonna relaunch it?
Oh, my God. Sharon.
Well, we don't see that every day.
No, I've never seen that.
Don't lose your train of thought here.
I'm
What were you saying, Frank?
feeling awful.
You can't even watch that.
Wow.
Cannot see that.
Goodness.
Well, that's Florida.
Are we signing back in? Is
I
that-
did already sign back in and I adjusted all the settings to make sure, because like I said, I've not.
I've never seen anything.
Which is odd, like I said, that's the first time that's ever.
That wasn't the new blood I was thinking about.
No.
Can anybody, again, my technical knowledge is not very good. Can anybody explain how that happened?
Honestly, I'm not sure, Chair Geller, that's what I was saying. Usually we have it only one person's able to share. I don't know how the meeting was set up, but I just went to our advanced settings to make sure that the host, is only able to share.
So you suspect that someone might have shared,
Yes,
one of the guests might have
correct.
shared.
Correct.
With our IT as well, to see
Yeah.
if maybe it was hacked.
That could be,
So
that
that's
could be,
another
a-
option.
Yes.
I'll get with Leo. and get-
We need to get our,
Yeah, because
our
we have
panel
the
back.
password.
See what they were watching in Zoom or. I don't know.
Senator Geller, with your permission, just to re-ask the question, for the purpose of the record, the invasion of the Zoom bomb has been excluded from the mix and will not be recorded as a matter of law. It is anathema to the process and to good government. That is not this way the
We're not
organization.
going to post it like that.
Please.
No, I
Thank you.
stopped recording as soon as
Not
it
be
came up.
recorded.
so
Show
that's
that
why I
done
was-
without objection.
It's not a legal record of the organization, please.
Okay, can somebody call, who was, I know Senator Garcia, Commissioner Udine,
Being Goldberg, Lincoln.
I think they
Anybody?
need to sign back in, right?
Kathy, I would send them an email to come back on. Great.
We have a time.
We got hacked somewhere else too. Similar,
You got hacked at the county?
another county.
It happened,
I'm trying to remember where that meeting was.
if it happened in the city of Plantation, in the early days of
It's-
pandemic, so.
This is something that was looking.
I've only seen
Yeah.
it.
Do you think people will?
We were shaking.
Are you sending out a news link? That's what we're.
I don't think we need a new link. We need people to sign into the existing one.
I would send an email. I am.
can somebody call the, how many, I know there was at least 3 council members, Councilmember Lincoln, Senator Garcia.
I'll text them.
Yeah.
Were there any other council members besides those 3?
Lincoln. Garcia. That's just crazy.
And Udine?
Email sent.
Yes, Udine. Garcia, Goldberg.
Goldberg is back on.
Okay.
Okay, good.
We do not, however, have Lincoln, Garcia, nor Udine.
I just sent them a text, Senator.
Okay,
That's crazy. I've never seen that. Oh my goodness.
I've seen it one time, but-
Never been in a meeting that that
I've seen
happened.
that coming.
We may have to do with
My
the,
goodness.
you have to. We might have to do a waiting room for the next meeting, Isabel, to do it that way, just to make sure.
That's your
To leave, to have an extra level of security and have a waiting room, and then I can just admit people into it one by one.
Yeah.
That would
Wow.
be the other way.
It takes a little extra time, but it's worth it.
That, I was
Yeah.
thinking the same thing. It'll take
Yeah.
us a little bit
We'll have
more
it done
minutes,
that
but
way.
I can start earlier and have people maybe jump on 10 minutes before.
Yeah.
This is the public meeting, it's on the website, everybody can join. Yeah, and the password is on the website with the meeting ID and passcode for them, because it's all on the website. It's a public meeting.
I guess somebody doesn't like us. It's like it's.
before we deal with what steps we should take in the future, let's first figure out how this occurred, because it may not be necessary. It may just be necessary to limit sharing. Senator Garcia on.
They're signing back in now.
Okay. I see Councilmember Udine back. I see Councilmember Lincoln back. Can somebody please call Senator Garcia?
I spoke with them. I spoke with Sarah Garcia's office.
And
And there's,
and I sent them that. So they just have, yeah, no, that's why I wanted to do, yeah, that's why.
no, I'm Jeff Louie. Tallahassee.
Oh, you're doing the JetBlue flight?
I am. I'm gonna have to get up very early.
Very exciting.
And
Finally
I
have
have
that
to stay to
option.
Saturday because they only have one plane, but it's okay.
I was supposed to be there last week. You going out?
I'm going. Yeah.
Tomorrow morning.
I usually drive.
So I'm happy Key West is.
Senator Garcia back on.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know, I listen to podcasts, so I don't mind. It clears my head.
Do we have,
And
and there's, well, I spoke with United, United is there, this is the staff, so I'm sure.
And because you're so limited with flight, it's great that JetBlue's there now, but it's over. I mean, people would show up at the airport and flight would be.
Yeah.
Is Senator Garcia on?
I'm checking, running again.
I don't see Senator Garcia.
Where are you located?
Is
He's
that
coming
him?
on now.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, we got to take that into consideration.
Isabel, can you tell me if all of the commission members that were on previously are back?
I believe so. I see Mayor Ross,
I
Commissioner
say
Egan,
commission, I mean the SFRPC.
Commissioner Lincoln, Goldberg. Oh, look, and, Vice Mayor Kaufman has been able to join us now. At least his eyes were not burnt. And, who are we missing? And then we're waiting for Senator Garcia.
He's on.
I think
He's in the corner.
Oh, perfect, he's there too. All right.
All right. In that case, back to where we were before, according, by the way, and according to the actions of this council, none of you actually saw what you think you saw. That issue that is being excised from the record. And Mr. Gorin, please show in the record that we were hacked with a pornographic video, and that portion of the meeting that consisted of the hack with the pornographic video has been excised from our records.
That is correct, Senator Geller. It is not part of the public record and will be excised as a matter of law.
But what I'd like you to do is just note that it has been that there was something that has been excised. Okay.
Correct.
So back to where we were.
I guess we've arrived to take care of the hacker
Right.
meeting.
At this point in time, Sam, let me ask you how to do this. There are, I think, two ways. One is to take a vote to approve the report of the nominating committee. And if that is not done, to send it back. If it is rejected, I see multiple ways to send it back to the nominating committee is item one. Item two, it would be to vote up or down on the report of the nominating committee. If that is not approved, then to take votes from the floor. And the third way of doing that would be to amend the report of the nominating committee. Are any of those preferable, or do all three of those work?
May I respond on the legal side, Mr. Senator Geller?
Yes, please.
All three legally work and are in your hands as a public body with the policy decisions you can make in any one of them. If the slate, and again, 1 through 3, both are, all three are legally doable if the council so chooses. There's no motion yet on the floor to do any one of the three. So from the standpoint of the slate, what is legally before you is the slate that the nominating committee legally and properly assessed and provided to you. So that is the item that needs to be moved on either way this morning.
Okay. What I think I would recommend, subject to discussion, is the following: to approve, my first suggestion, to vote on the report of the nominating committee. If that is rejected, I think to send it back to the nominating committee with the recommendation that at our next meeting, we have the election. Does that sound like that works? Is there any? Yes, who's speaking?
Bean, or
Councilmember Furr, you're recognized, sir.
if I decline my nomination, does it go back to the nominating committee, or would we be able to nominate right now?
If you declined yours, everybody would move up one additional space. And Sam, how would would there be when there's a vacancy, how is that filled? By an election or appointment?
It's still by the council.
Okay. I also, by the way, am going to make a recommendation, as I had said earlier. I'm going to make a recommendation that if a immediate past chair misses 3 consecutive meetings, that they be removed and that position can be filled by appointment. So if you decline your position, there would be an election at the next meeting for an additional seat. And I expect that there will be an additional seat that would be filled by an appointment. Does
Okay,
that
well,
answer your question?
I think I'm gonna ask that my name be taken off the slate, make room for somebody else. I think it makes sense. It gives some other people a chance to be on there.
And then everybody else would move up a position.
Yeah.
Meaning, Sam, can you please
Yes.
read?
Yes, the recitation would be Senator Geller is the chair. Commissioner Furr will be off the grid so that Senator Garcia would still be the first vice chair. Treasurer Commissioner Lincoln, I presume, would then move up to second vice chair. The secretary, who is Commissioner Kaufman, would move to treasurer, and then you'd have some openings to work from.
Then there will be at the next, I will recall a meeting of the nominating committee to elect another member for secretary. And again, I'm expecting there will be one additional vacancy that will be filled by appointment.
Just to restate for the record, Commissioner Senator Geller, with the withdrawal of Commissioner Furr voluntarily, and without coercion or duress, he's made that decision on the record.
I thought I saw his arm, his wrist reaching the back of his neck, but just joking. Haha, I'm a funny guy. All right.
So you would then have, again, you as the chair senator, with Senator Garcia moving to first, with Commissioner Lincoln moving up to second, and with Commissioner Kaufman moving to treasurer, then leaving open the position only of secretary.
Right. Although, as I said, I told you I want to talk with you about amending our bylaws.
Yes.
Okay. Which I hope will create one additional position. All right. So here's what I'm recommending, that we vote on that slate as read by Mr. Gorin. If that slate is rejected, then we will go back to the nominating committee. And at our next meeting, the nominating committee will present a different slate. Is there a motion to that effect?
Just a question.
Yes.
To me, there'll be certainly one vacancy in the slate.
Right.
That presumably won't be filled with the proposal until after the nominating committee meets.
Yes, that's correct.
Is it conceivable we could coalesce around someone today?
We have a time certain 11 o'clock with the Army Corps of Engineers and our partners, so I don't know, it seems like a longer conversation.
So the decision would be to approve the slate
As amended.
With one vacancy.
with one vacancy.
Correct.
One vacancy, right?
Two vacancies.
And that gives people chances to let people know who wants to do it.
That takes a lot of
And
time.
and also add new blood as was requested.
Point of
All right.
information, we can
We
also,
are running out of time. Is there a motion? Was there a motion as requested?
Moved.
Mayor Ross had a question, I believe.
just had a point of information, instead of doing this halfway and leaving it for the next time, because of the time frame that we have, we could table this until the next time, thereby giving everyone the additional opportunity.
Yes.
I'm okay with that if that's your desire. We do have something coming up in 3 minutes.
Right.
All right.
I
is
would
that a motion?
second that.
Okay.
Second by Lincoln.
Okay, there is a motion to defer, to send this, is this also to send back to the nominating committee?
Yes.
Okay, all right, there's motion sent back to the nominating committee, and report back at the next meeting. Discussion, seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Udine opposed.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Udine. Show
Senator
that,
Geller, if I may quickly,
yes, sir.
just to clarify for the record, the currently sitting executive committee, which comprises yourself and others that are otherwise on the record, will continue in their office unless otherwise replaced or modified at the next meeting. So for the record, their legal positions and legal rights, which are otherwise attends their position, is not being changed by this discussion today.
That pursuant to our bylaws, that until our successors
Thank you,
are
Senator.
elected.
That's why I said it. Thank you.
Yes. All right, I did not see the vote on that. I believe it was 6. I'm not sure how many voting members we have. How many voting members do we have today? Kathy, how many voting members do we have here today?
Present, we have 4, well,
Altogether, how many?
Four plus the on the
Altogether?
gallery. Yeah.
We have 4 in the room, and then the people in the gallery, he's counting now.
And they can vote as well.
Oh,
present virtually.
So how many members do we have?
We have 19 members, but we have a full.
No, but only members of the SFRPC voting members can vote.
That's correct.
okay, central. I don't think.
Oh, I see.
He did.
Ex officios do not.
Do not
vote.
vote.
Right.
Right, not counting, there are no ex officios here.
So it shouldn't be a difficult question. How many members, voting members are attending today's? 12. All right. Show that motion adopted by a vote of 11-1. And let's see. At this point in time, we have one more item before we get to our 11 o'clock, which I think is quick, because it's 10:59. Resolution 2401, Kristen Jacobs Coral Reef Ecosystem. Isabel or Commissioner Furr, can you discuss this?
Happy to. This was, back in I think it's 2018, where this council, along with the Treasure Coast Council, put together some legislation and actually, I think Kristen walked it through.
The sponsor, yeah.
And we're able to create the Kristen it wasn't called the Kristen Jakes at the time. It was the code for the Coral Reef Preserve. And when it was created, it didn't have a management authority. And we've been kind of patiently waiting for DEP and FWC to come up with a managing authority. What this does is they're making it an aquatic reserve, so the DEP at least has somewhat of a management authority to deal with it. I think, Isabel, you've kind of worked with our chief resilience officer as well on this.
Yes.
And Joanna Walzak, who was instrumental in putting a lot of this stuff together.
Should I, if I would be happy to jump in if you.
Sure, anytime.
I'm through the chair.
No,
No, you're doing a great job. It's just that, it's so, the case is that right now this year, There's Senate Bill 1386 by Senator Galatayud and House Bill 1557, which is basically the DEP department bill. It has a number of items in that bill that we care about. In fact, all of them we care about. And one of them that stands out is the Florida Coral Reef and Aquatic Preserves. What I did as your staff was, some of these issues are still being discussed and reviewed by county staff. And I did not want to get ahead of county staff or you, the commissioners, by bringing forth a council resolution covering everything. So I picked out the one that I knew that there was absolute uniformity and that we had voted on it multiple times, and that is the coral reef aspect. And what this would do is it would take the conservation area that Councilmember Burr, Commissioner Smith in Martin County, and of course, then Representative Jacob spearheaded to create the Southeast Florida Coral Reef Conservation Area. And what it's gonna do, we have been advocating, and I say we, of course, our board has been advocating for additional conservation restoration measures in that area. And by moving it to the list of Florida aquatic preserves, that will begin to happen. And also this resolution asks for the continued funding by the legislature for coral reefs, and also that the department and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission work together to develop and implement a long-term coral reef strategy and conservation plan.
And I think the other part of that is we teamed up with Treasure Coast to lobby the legislators to pass that. And I think it made a big difference. I think it passed unanimously. Because there were so many between the 7 counties, you have a lot of support. So I think I think we want to pass this with recommendation. And we work with Treasure Coast, do the same thing and just follow
Right.
our path.
And through the chair, what I would imagine would happen is that county staff would perform and have their review of this legislation. They would let us know if there's any concerns. And if not, I can bring it back to the board, because again, everything we care about, treatment of reclaimed water, resilience planning, technologies, wastewater facility plans, and septic systems. So they're all priority issues, but again, out of an abundance of caution, did not want to get ahead of county staff.
Okay, and Isabel, my understanding is that Dr. Gerardo, who I believe should be on about now.
No, she's
did have-
here.
Okay,
She's
oh,
here in person.
okay, and she did have some concerns, but the motion that, as you have suggested or requested, also says that this will run this by the county staff for comment, correct?
Well, if I could, Chair, the coral reef part is supported by everyone. DP, county staff, everyone. So moving on the resolution as presented to you works. And then we will wait to hear back from county staff on the other one. So I would treat this as a standalone item that we could then go ahead and thank Senator Galatayud and the House sponsor for saying how much we support this part and the rest of their bill, but we'll get back to them. But on the
Okay.
coral part, we're ready to go.
Sam, can you please, if you can, because I'm had just a little difficulty following, can you please restate the motion as prepared by Commissioner Burr with possibly amended or not with comments from Isabel?
Thank you, Senator. For the record, the resolution is 24-01 as otherwise set forth in the record. And the motion, if adopted this morning, would approve the resolution 2401, consistent with the commentary offered by Commissioner Furr and others, which would be part of the record in its transition and delivery to. And I can read the title with your permission, but that's the objective. It's a resolution of the South Florida Regional Planning Council representing Monroe, Miami-Dade, and Broward counties, expressing support for the Section 2 of Senate Bill 1386 and House Bill 1557 as introduced, which adds the Kristen Jacobs Coral Reef Ecosystem Conservation Area to the list of Florida aquatic preserve areas, thanking and urging the legislature and governor to continue and increase their generous support for coral reef restoration and management, requesting that the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission collaborate to develop and implement a long-term coral reef conservation strategy and providing for an effective date. Again, the resolution title of the record plus the commentary made by Commissioner Furr and others will be part of the record if the resolution is adopted by motion. Thank you, Senator.
And we will be doing this with the Treasure Coast RPC, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
Well, I have been sending them information and I expect that they will pick it up, but again, I will continue having that conversation. I have no reason to think that they will not do a similar thing.
Okey dokey. Okay, Commissioner Furr, was that a motion?
Yep, motion to approve.
And
Second,
is there a second?
Second.
Was that Mayor Ross seconding?
it was.
Okay. All right, there was a motion and a second. Is there any debate or discussion? Seeing no debate or discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please show that adopted unanimously. At this point in time, we are, we still have some other items, but we have a time certain at 11. So let us turn to the time certain presentation. And let me see if I have an agenda specifically for that.
Please refer to agenda 4H. And the bios of our great speakers from the counties, the four.
Well, I'm just not sure based on my annotated agenda who our speakers are and in what order. Is it Dr. Gerardo that will be speaking first?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Gerardo, you're recognized, ma'am.
If I could, Chair, just before we jump in, I don't really know, this is a little different. Dr. Gerardo is gonna make a presentation and then we're gonna have a conversation. Of course, of any, there's not 5 different presentations here. Okay, there's one and then there's conversation.
May I ask who is present from the Army Corps and from the SFWMD?
Yes, from the Water Management District, we're happy to have in our office, Dr. Carolina Cuello Maran from the Water Management District.
You know Dr. Moran well.
Yes, Major Corey Bell, the Deputy District Commander for South Florida.
Sorry,
US
Major,
Army
what's the
Corps
last
Engineers.
name? Isabel, what
Corey
Major? Who?
Bell. Bell, B-E-L-L. He's been with us all morning, so
Major
he's
Bell.
enjoying the meeting. And we, Eva Velez is joining us virtually. She was on, now they're all trying to get back on. She is the Chief of the Ecosystem Branch of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, also the Jacksonville District. And and actually we have also with us in person, thank goodness, James Murley, the Chief Resilience Officer from Miami-Dade County, who you all know so well. And then we have also Timothy Geisen, who is the Resilience Senior Project Manager of the Ecosystem Branch Programs and Project Management Division, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Jacksonville District. That's a
Okay,
lot.
so we have 3 people from the Army Corps, Dr. Moran and Jim Murley.
Yes.
Great.
And of course, Dr. Water. 2 county, 1 Water Management District, and the rest Army Corps.
Gotcha, perfect. In that case, Dr. Gerardo, can you please begin your presentation? By the way, if for those of you that have joined recently, I apologize for zooming in. I was diagnosed with COVID yesterday, so I'm trying to keep everybody healthy. Dr. Gerardo, if you can begin your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Chair Geller, and I'm trusting that they're adequate mic. So the presentation being shared today is a little bit of an update on the topic of the Central and Southern Flood Risk Study that is an effort that the region has lobbied and advocated for I would say nearly a decade. So there's been a lot of work and history in terms of how we've arrived at the state that we are today with regards to the status of the study and some recent conversations that may influence forthcoming actions by our counties and in collaboration with the Water Management District to help move this project along. A couple of terminologies, statements here that Isabel helped with. One, the FPLOS is the Flood Protection Level of Service Studies. These are studies that are undertaken by the South Florida Water Management District that are focused on individual basins, looking at future flood risk and water management needs to address that flood risk within these basin-specific studies. Coastal structures, these are the gates or the control structures on the primary canals, that run west and east throughout our counties that provide drainage and flood protection. The coastal structures separate fresh water from saline water on the, the downstream and upstream sides of each of these structures. The phase 1 and phase 2 studies for this FPLOS. Phase 1 are analyses of these control structure projects that have not been funded by the district but are slated. And the phase 2 studies have received some portion of funding. So this is all relevant because these FPLOS studies have provided technical contributions to the larger joint study, which is the CNSF project, which was on that title slide. This is relevant because the Army Corps of Engineers constructed this whole system, but the Water Management District provides operations and maintenance. And so we have two entities that have historical responsibility for the construction and operation of the system. That's all relevant because this system began its design back in the 1940s. It was constructed. It didn't contemplate the changes in landscape that we have today with regards to development, population, flood control needs. But most important in our conversation has been that of climate change, sea level rise, and the impacts of increased rainfall on the management and operations of this whole system. So recognizing the weaknesses in the system to meet the regional flood protection that we all depend on, we had advocated for some time for the Army Corps of Engineers to undertake a study, a resilience study, an update of this program, of this project. We were successful in gaining authorization for the study, subsequently appropriations, and this study was called the 216 study. That's because it's the authority under which the study was undertaken. I don't want to belabor too deeply, but the 216 study had a limitation of a constrained budget of $3 million. And we always knew that that wasn't going to be enough, but it was enough to get started. And we knew that we would go through this scoping process where we would figure out the real budget that was needed. And we would be coming back and we'd be asking for a waiver or basically an approval of this modified scope in order to do the work that was actually needed, because $3 million was not sufficient. So the Water Management District and the Army Corps of Engineers are the leads. The Water Management District is the local sponsor. Their team, which includes the most significantly Dr. Moran and Tim Geisen as the project leads, have been responsible and with a lot of stakeholder support, went through a scoping process. And ultimately the determination was, look, when we look at these structures, and we can say between 18 and 20 structures in our region on these gates, the control structures. When we look at those and we think about what needs to happen in terms of the resilience analysis and improvements, we expect the study budget would be about $19 million. Well, that recommendation was taken forward, and the Army Corps has what they call a vertical team responsible for saying, okay, we've looked at this study and we're ready to, advance your recommendation. But that's not what they said. They said the $19 million scope is too big. You need to go home, do some homework, reduce it down to something more manageable in terms of budget. And the Corps and the district worked on that and came back and said, okay, we have a modified budget or a study that will only focus on those structures. It's not going to look at all the canal needs. It's not going to look at all the banks. We recognize there's these other things that the system needs, but if we just focus on what needs to happen with these structures in order to maintain operations of these canals, we estimate a budget of $11.3 million, and that was submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers for approval in about July of 23. Next slide, please. So it was sitting up there, waiting for approval, and we were very much aware that the need was to have this sign off by September of 23. And so we were pestering about the status of the sign off, which wasn't occurring. And in the course of that, we learned that there's a new need to be addressed as part of this scope. And we have this study budget in front of us and scope and so forth. But now you need to go back and incorporate this requirement that was flagged for us, which is this 20% engineering design, which they call level 3. I believe the study would otherwise look at level 4. Level 3 is a big deal because while it's only considered 20% of project design, it's actually the bulk of like the cost for project design. So it's really kind of front loaded with this 20%. As you get to 80%, very little more needs to be done. So this had major consequences because in order to get to 20% design, it has major cost implications. And so the Corps began looking at what it would take to take all of these structures to level 3 design and said, look, you're looking at a budget of about $40 million now. And we already know that the 19 million wasn't supported. So you're looking now at a budget of 40 million. And while you were previously seeking WRDA authorization in 26, which would be the approvals to take those projects to construction, whatever comes from this 216 study, they said, if we do this level of engineering across all these structures, you're looking at 2032 for completing a study. This is critical because we know our system's failing already. We already know that there's times when the gates can't open, we can't drain. Corps has acknowledged that it's, not operating where it needs to be. The districts recognize that for more than a decade. So this delay on just getting the study done, not even minding authorization and appropriations and construction is a problem. And so in conjunction with recognizing this $40 million alternative, which probably wasn't going to have much traction, the Corps and district also began coming up with yet another alternative. And that other alternative is what we will call a hybrid study. And this hybrid study says, well, we know we can't get approval for the 40 million, or not likely, and we know that the Corps is going to require something on the engineering design. What if we now analyze 4 of the salinity control structures to that level 3, and then based upon the findings of those, we should have enough information to get some pretty good cost estimates on the remaining structures, and with that we could advance, something that the Corps could comfortably sign off on and move forward. It's anticipated that this revised approach would have a budget of 19.2 million, could reach WRDA authorization in 2028. And so we have these 3 alternatives. 11.3, which doesn't meet the engineering requirements, 40 million, which meets all the engineering requirements, but has a big budget and a long time delay, and a hybrid at 19.2 million with 4 salinity control structures addressed. But then the question comes, well, what about the remaining salinity control structures? When will we get to final design on that? And so the counties were concerned about the uncertainty and were saying, pushing really hard for just kind of waiving the engineering requirement, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the alternative that moves forward. So where does that put us? Next slide, please. So we initiated conversations with the Corps and the district, and let me just say that the most recent conversations with the Corps were just January 8th. And this proposal was developed at the staff level on January 10th. So this is all very critical. And the reason the timing is critical is because the Corps will be running out of money to do any additional work on this project in March. And what we desperately need is the Corps to sign off on a scope that allows us to move forward. And our question is, how can we get comfortable with a scope that will fit the needs of the region? And so we reached into this conversation with the district and said, what could we do if we were to work more directly with the South Florida Water Management District, find some gap funding to address these other structures that the Corps is unable to take up because of the constraints we just went through? And the district said, well, we could work with you to address these structures and accelerate these engineering studies, and ideally move this local product in path with what the Corps is working, so that we could reach that authorization in the time frame that is desired. But we have these FPLOS studies that are underway that do some of this work for us. Some of them are in phase 1, 7 structures there, 13 structures located in Miami-Dade. Let's go to the next slide, please. And what's proposed at this point is the following. We can work with the Army or with the Water Management District, who's able to complete the engineering requirements on these structures at a cost of about 1.5 million. This is compared to the Corps that estimates work at 2.5 million. You know, everything costs more when we work with the Corps. So working with the district, we can manage the costs more directly. We propose that the structures that are located in Broward County, we would address through support from our board. The structures that are located in Miami-Dade County, ideally, that county could take up that request for the remaining, you know, gap need. And that would be potentially allocated based upon, you know, Broward County has 7 structures in its area. Miami-Dade has 13 structures in its area. The Army Corps of Engineers would presumably be including 4 in its study, so 2 in each county. So then look at the difference. We would have then 5 structures located in Broward County, a total of 11 structures that would remain to be engineering costs met in Miami-Dade County. And at $1.5 million per structure, that would mean 7.5 million would need to come from Broward County in order to complete these engineering studies, 16.5 million from Miami-Dade in order to complete the engineering studies. The Water Management District has indicated that a 2-year time frame would be sufficient for doing that work. And if we were to move forward in this manner, there's a strong possibility of being able to complete all of the engineering work at the level 3, pair that with the Corps study, and move everything potentially in 2026 rather than the 2028 timeframe. That would be our goal, but at minimum meeting 2028 with all of the work and seeking authorization at that time for the completion and moving forward with construction. So the request today is for consideration by the Regional Planning Council, I think, for that conversation. And of course, the Water Management District and Corps are here to provide additional details that I was not able to cover or clarify.
Okey-dokey. Isabel, I have a number of questions. Is the plan to for presentations from the other people present, or is they're here to answer questions?
Just answer questions, comments, and I'm sure the Army Corps might like to add some information. We have Jim and Carolina also, so.
Okay, let me ask some questions. And Isabel, since I can't see the order that hands are going up in, can you please begin a queue for additional questions when I'm done?
Yes, Alicia's on that.
Dr. Hirado, and we discussed this recently at the Water Board, which I chair. My understanding is that the proposal that you are discussing involves, you said, only the salinity control, what was the wording you used? Structure. Does this include only the salinity control barriers, or does this also include the pumps?
Yeah, thank you for the question, sir. The study would focus on how do those structures, which are currently gravity-driven gates, how would they need to be upgraded? And the expectation is that every one of these gates would be equipped, it would be retrofit the structure, elevated, additional improvements to the structure itself, and then the addition of the pump. And all of these would be transitioned from gravity operated systems to pump controlled systems.
Thank you. And this question to you and to Major Bell and the other, Ms. Velez and Mr. I think
Geisen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't understand how this works. And the reason I don't understand it is because I do understand it, which means I don't understand how the proposal would actually work. If this doesn't, the problem that we have, and I've been running around screaming about this like a chicken with my head cut off for at least 5 years. And I have to say that sometimes Chicken Little is accurate. And The Army Corps did tell me 5 or 6 years ago, I think it was Colonel Kelly at the time, but it may have been the one before him, that said that if they got the authorizations, if they got all the money they needed, and if everything went well, their best scenario was that they could complete the project in 15 years. With that many caveats, I'm assuming 20 is a realistic time frame, and your studies, Dr. Hirado, have shown that in approximately 12 years, the ocean level, sea level rise, ocean level, and inland water will be about even. Now, as those of us on the SFRPC will remember from the SEDS report, our excuse me, our climate in Broward is either tropical rainforest or tropical monsoon, meaning it rains a lot. And so under your numbers, and give or take 12 years, we won't be able to drain when it rains. And I think if we're looking at 2028, well, I'll get to that in a moment, for possible authorizations. 15 years from that is problematic. But water doesn't flow uphill, which is why we need the pumps. But if we're not either putting in seawalls or berms, I don't see how the water actually reaches the intratidal waterways, the intracoastal, or the ocean. If we're pumping water into the existing canals without adding either seawalls or berms, aren't we going to flood everything in sight on both sides of the canals?
Well, Senator Geller, the system is obviously more complex than just making additions to the salinity control gates. We recognize that there's a whole of improvements as you've described. It could be improving the cross sections of the canals for additional storage, additional conveyance, improvements to the secondary control system with additional pumps, improvements downstream in the way of management within the floodplain. The seawalls are, of course, a requirement under county ordinance with regards to improving their height, but there could be other bank improvements that are needed, and that's all anticipated. So the study itself will not only direct recommendations that are focused on the control structures, but will provide additional recommendations that will feed into a more comprehensive study that's already authorized, which is called the comprehensive study. And I think it's just appreciated that not everything will be happening overnight. We know that obviously we're seeing timelines extend beyond the accelerated track. The Water Management District is already working with Miami-Dade County on a number of incremental investments where partial improvements are provided that will be part of the larger fix. So not everything has to be constructed with a single project, but could happen incrementally as some of the pressures dictate phased and priority implementation. So I think the recognition is that, yes, a lot more will need to happen, but there are already failures that are with a number of structures that the Water Management District has already identified as currently not meeting service needs. So I think you see a stepwise process of improvements, working to bring other supportive projects to the pump component itself. And the district has examples where they've been working with FEMA funds to do just this. So your point's well made. I think there's more than one solution that needs to be part of the track that we're pursuing.
Dr. Hirado, I recognize that some canals are in worse shape than others. My concern was just, I don't think without fixing the banks, that even in the worst case canals, putting in pumps without controlling the water inside the canals, without adding either berms or seawalls, accomplishes nothing other than severe flooding once you pump the water on the other side of the salinity control barrier. If there aren't berms or seawalls, you're simply flooding everything around that. But let me move on. Under the word of 28, we're hoping for authorization. You said authorization for what? Authorization for the whole project, authorization for a couple of them, authorization for things with the canals. What is it we're hoping for in the 2028 WARDA Act?
So let me just reiterate that the most pressing need that we would have is sign off on the scope of work by the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works at the Army Corps. We have to have that before we would even be in the position to talk about additional appropriations or the subsequent authorization. So what would happen with this study is once it is approved and moves forward, when it's completed, you have a chief's report that gets signed, which is basically the approval of the report. And then that moves forward for congressional authorization. And what that does is approve the recommendations for implementation. So since we're talking about how we would bring all these resources together in order to ensure a complete study and chief's report, it would include the expectation is that we would have all 20 structures with the engineering complete, included in the recommendations, and we would be seeking with the Corps positioning for authorization of all 20 of those control structure improvements and what they would include. And I would have to defer to the Corps and the district with regards to how the secondary recommendations would be treated, but presumably those would just move, they would flow into the comprehensive study that we would be undertaking in parallel.
Okay, and my last question, which is in two parts, is the Corps quoted me about 5 years ago that they thought that this would be somewhere, as I recall, around around $3 billion. But that was 5 years ago. That was only for the pumps, that did not include anything for the secondary canals, that did not improve anything for the rights of way for the seawalls or berms. I'm guessing, and this is just a wag, that would take it to somewhere around 10 billion now. So I'm hoping that the Corps can give us, I realize you don't have, exact numbers, but do you have a guess at the total cost for all 20 of the major canals plus the minor canals for the salinity control barriers, the pumps, and the associated berms or seawalls, number one, and number two, if it's in the $10 billion range, which is what I'm guessing, how likely is it, do you think, that we get added with all of the pressures? I mean, I have been advocating for years that it's a joke that people have heard me say many times, to buy arcs and houseboats, because I think we'll be needing them here. So can anybody from Major Bell, sorry, COVID, Major Bell, could you comment on the total, what you think the total cost is and how likely it is that that gets funded? And that's after which I will be, Isabel, if you have a list, can you text me the names in the order? The only one I have for the next question is Commissioner Furr. Major Bell, could you answer the question that I gave as well as any of the other questions I've asked? Major Bell? Or anybody from the Army Corps?
While he's getting on mute, good morning. I'm going to jump in while Major Bell's working on his audio. Good morning, Senator Geller. Good morning, members
Thank you. Thank you
of the council,
today,
sir.
Ms.
Thank you.
We
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
you being
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gerardo, for the excellent presentation. So, sir, to answer your question first very directly, I will give you some numbers of what we are working with this year, the 2024. We are almost ready to award about 1,000 CFS pump station in the area for the Everglades program. And that one is anticipated to cost just the pump station and that kind of work about $200 million. So that's a good, very current estimate of a high flow, high capacity pump station in the region that helps us understand future estimated costs. And so we know there's more to each location where these salinity control structures exist, but that's a good current estimate of a pump station in the area.
5 years ago, we were told that they were about $100 billion each. So they should be more than that now.
That's right, sir. So that helps me also, if I may, sir, can I offer some insight as to what the Corps has been experiencing? Thank you, sir. And so that's a good segue to what the Corps of Engineers has been experiencing in cost growth across the nation. So our Chief of Engineers, General Spellman, is actually engaged in this discussion about this study. Colonel Booth and I were in DC in the last 2 weeks and spoke to him about the study, as well as General Graham, and as well as Mr. Connor, our ASA. So they're all aware of the importance of the study. And on a national perspective, the guidance they're giving us is that when they speak to congressional members and appropriators, the cost of civil works of these important infrastructure projects across the nation has grown significantly. And therefore, they were asking the Corps to provide better certainty of our costs. And that's why you see the new guidance that Dr. Gerardo was describing.
On the 20% engineering.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's directly related to the growth we've seen in costs across the nation and our leadership trying to provide more refined, more advanced engineering design during the feasibility stage. But it's important to balance that with urgently addressing the nation's needs. And so that's what our leadership is working on. And this study actually is leading the nation and try to navigate that balance, sir.
My main question is if it's 400 million, if it's 4 billion for just the pumps, 200 million times 20. I just want to know, I'm ballparking the total cost around 10 billion. Does that sound like a ballpark number, or do you think the ballpark is 7 or 15? Do you have a ballpark guesstimate?
So we're working on that, sir. I don't want to give you a number that
If
then
the answer is no, I will accept it.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to talk anymore because we have Commissioner Furr has a question and we have to get to Mr. Murley in the next 15 or 20 minutes. So, Commissioner Furr, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. This is, as Dr. Gerardo mentioned, this has been going on for quite a while. I remember when I was mayor in 2018, we sent letters out trying to get the study done. And I felt for a long time that this is something that we should be, you can sit there and wait for the federal government to do this, or we do the study ourselves and get it done. Yeah. And I felt all along that this is not that big of an ask. Well, from the county's perspective, we have a $7 million budget, $7 billion budget. This would be one little part to working with South Florida Water Management District. I would hope that we could do matching funds. We pushed real hard this year to ask the South Florida Water Management District not to roll back their taxes, knowing that there's needs.
Yes.
And this is one of those needs. And this is one of those needs I think we should be asking as a regional planning council, combined with the Tragic Coast, because they're affected too. With Palm Beach, I think, but I'm not really that much. But,
For our Miami-Dade primarily.
Yeah.
Of course, it all runs down. there.
yeah, but between the two counties, this is, should be right on the top of our list. And I can't speak for my fellow commissioners, but I know it is of a major concern. And if it's $7 million over 2 years, just to get it going, there's a way to find that. There's a way to do that. And I know I know, Jim, it would be more on Miami-Dade side, but your budget's a lot bigger than ours. So, I mean, this may be one of those times where we just collaborate, get the study done, and then tell the feds, we got it. Here's exactly what you need. Let's do it. Let's do it now. We don't have to wait. I'm tired of waiting on it. I'm tired of hearing. I mean, I've heard about these arcs for too long. So.
Arcs and houseboats.
Yes, exactly.
Have to go get it.
And so I think it's incumbent upon us to do, this is not that big, to do the study. And it shows we have some skin in the game.
Mhm.
And when we do that, we've done our part, Army Corps, we've done our part here. We need your help now. And then let's go for it. So my recommendation is that this planning council, make a motion or decide to encourage both counties to do those matching funds. I would ask the South Florida Water Management District, Carolyn, I don't know how to do this, or maybe you can figure out a way to do this. But if there's a way of doing matching funds, I think it'd be great. I think it shows good faith effort on everybody's part. And that's the way I'd like to go. And start tomorrow. I mean, that's how urgent it is. I don't think we have any time to waste.
No.
I've seen the timeline. I've seen that sea level rise curve. And the sooner the better. And get it ready for this next, either budget, or we do, half in the middle of the year, we do.
Supplemental.
Yeah, and we just do it there and get it going. That's what I would like to see happen. And I don't see any reason why not to. And I'd love to hear from both Jim and Carolina what your thoughts are on trying to do that. And all of us working together and putting together a product that tells the feds this is urgent. I can't imagine, given what's at stake and the 10 million people that live in this area that are going to be dependent on this working, how this doesn't rise to one of the top urgent projects in the United States. I mean, I don't know how it's not. Because if you have that kind of a flood, then you're talking about real catastrophe. And I think that the Corps recognizes that, but they just they have their processes that they have to go through. They have to get their study. So let's give it to them and give it to them quick. That's my thoughts.
Commissioner Furr, well said. As one Broward County Commissioner, since this is not a violation of sunshine, since this is a publicly noticed meeting, I agree with everything you said. The study itself is not a major, should not be a major funding issue. The only thing I disagree on is I have little faith in the U.S. Congress to give us the 10 billion or so that I'm afraid it will cost, although that will be over 15 years, according to what the Corps has told us. So it doesn't sound like that much per year, but I agree with everything that you said about the need for speed here. Let me call on Mr. Murley, Secretary Murley. Jim, you've had so many titles over your career. I'm not exactly sure what to call you, but Mr. Murley, you're recognized, sir, for remarks. And also, on behalf of Dade County, can you speak on their view as to what Commissioner Furr just said?
Well, thank you, Chairman Geller and members of the commission. It's kind of like coming home to come to this meeting and have these discussions. My grandchildren call me old granddad, so I'm beginning to feel
That's
that.
suburban, I believe.
Yeah. So most importantly, I speak here as the Chief Resilience Officer for the county, who I work directly for Mayor Danielle Levine Cava. We are apprised of everything that's been going on, and I know members of my county commission are online, so there has been no decision by either the mayor or the county commission that I can officially translate. But I am charged with monitoring several Corps of Engineers projects where the county is the non-federal sponsor or our district is the non-federal sponsor. They're all taking place on the same landscape, on the same, from the beach across the bay to the canals to the Everglades. So one thing I would say is very important for the Regional Planning Council working with the non-federal sponsors, because I think probably Broward is non-federal sponsor for something, is we need to really stress to the Corps to integrate these projects. Because we can go from one meeting on one project where they're talking about level 3 and level 5 and all these issues. And then the next project team is a little bit in a different place. So while you have to deal with them on a specific project under the guidelines of authorities, what we push for is integration across the landscape. And that's especially important for our counties to look at that way as we move forward. On the specific project, as some of the information that's been shared with you, we have been fortunate for 3 of the 23 canals to have received FEMA funding, which will allow some upgrades. They're not replacements, but upgrades, because each one of those canals received a $50 million grant, which to me sounded like a lot of money, but you know, a total replacement is more like 200 million. So while we will have improvements, which are important, we'll still have more to do. And we have a number of canals that have been talked about. We do have pumps on of these type, I believe, Carolina, on C6, which is the Miami River by the airport, and the Tamiami, which is coming in, which were put in a decade or more ago because of heavy rainfall, not a hurricane, but the famous no-name storm that flooded us. So we have some experience with the pumps, but we've also seen the data that, you know, we have the same concerns downstream, Mr. Chair, and we're looking at all those issues. I again, not being able to speak directly on behalf of the mayor or the commission, I think these are the issues that need to be looked at regionally, integrating the projects as much as we can with the Corps and the Water Management District, and then being prepared to take those actions that the elected officials, in our case, a separate mayor, decide are appropriate. It is consistent with the work we're doing with the other Corps projects, but it has to be, you know, sort of teased out. And thank goodness we have Dr. Gerardo with us to speak on behalf with her technical skills. I think she described it perfectly. I'm not going to go back over that. But it does, each county will have to look at this in the budget process, as you said, Commissioner Furr, and make those decisions. I welcome the Regional Planning Council's initiative at this point. I think it frames it correctly. It's 2 counties that need to look at this together with our Regional Water Management District, and wherever we can speak on the same page. Respectfully, there may be some differences, but you know, wherever we can look at this regionally. Thank you. Nice to be able to speak with the council.
Thank you. And Jim, it's always a pleasure to see you. We've known each other for many decades. Too many for me to want to discuss, though. Yeah, thanks. Dr. Moran, quick question, same one that I asked Dr. Gerardo. I'm a lawyer, I'm not an engineer. I just don't understand how putting in the salinity control barriers plus the giant pumps without building up berms or seawalls accomplishes the draining that we need after rainfall without massive flooding over the banks of the canals. Can you help on that?
Sure. I'll do my best here, and good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer, for the effort summary of the status of this study. You have been an advocate for this, and you can explain better than all of this in this room where we are, and it was great to have this brief update. Thank you also, Senator Geller and Commissioner, for all the planning council members for helping us on really recognizing the urgency of this study. This is not the most attractive, easy to communicate type of investment, and having the support from all of you to communicate and talk about it is essential, especially now where we are. So really, we need buyers. We need buyers for this type of investment. The timing is critical, and we appreciate the coordination to the planning council and helping us to communicate those questions. Also, we received very happy, very enthusiastic on the proposal for helping us accelerate the funding, accelerate the study itself. That's aligned to what South Florida Water Management District has been seeking. As Senator Geller presented, Jennifer also alluded to, we have been working on assessing those structures for 10 years now. We have a well-established program looking at vulnerabilities, where we are, and the needs that we have for the system. We have a plan that we put together with a series of investments, and we have the consolidated report that is now a requirement. Jennifer also has this slide on her presentation. So we are very concerned where we are with the study now. We are very concerned with the lack of a waiver still, and the early spring, perhaps hands down scenario. This is definitely what we are trying to avoid, and working very closely with the core team to be able to continue this study, given already the delays in water target, and we don't want any further delay, especially where we are now, and also giving the new requirements for the design that has already a potential impact on the water. So we have been talking with the Corps. We express our concerns. The district received the 3 proposals as well. We look at the timing. That was definitely our major concern. We have been discussing with them on the strategies on how we can do this. And what we proposed at that time, and what we have been discussing with the Corps as the local sponsor for this program, is really to leverage any available existing resource that we have in the region. Studies, analysis, technical studies, abilities to advance design, our ability as an agency, and really working with the counties that are also doing similar studies, assessments, and can help with that. So this proposal is well received. This is exactly what we are trying to work with the county, finding mechanisms that we can accelerate, expedite this study and the design. So on answering your question, I mentioned also the plan and the studies that we have. So none of the work that we have been advancing will cause any accessibility flooding anywhere else. We are preempted. We cannot do that from FEMA. We cannot fix one flooding issue by exacerbating flooding conditions anywhere else in the system. This is the minimal requirement for funding. Design and additional modeling efforts will show all the strategies that we need to adhere to be able to implement those. The flexibility that the pump gives us allow us to operate the system more efficiently, doesn't allow us to make decisions like at the time that we need to make. Today, we make decisions 5-6 days earlier because of the lack of capacity that we have in the system. So it gives tremendous flexibility. Does not necessarily mean flooding, increasing discharge downstream. We are recovering discharge that were lost, flexibility, capacity to operate the system, and working very closely with the city. So to answer the question, no, there is no exacerbated flooding. There will be some components that will be discussed in coordination with local governments in the secondary system. We have been initiating some of those discussions when we are implementing some of those projects at the district level. Design to get to the 20% design. One checkbox that we need to make is also that one. We did a brief workshop with the Corps, and it was clear to us that this box of looking at the operation of the system downstream is also part of the design. So the 20% design will be addressing this. It's included. So yes, we're going to be working on that, identifying additional potential elements in some of the projects that we have been looking at. The district already looked at some of additional components. So S27, 28, 29 are already evolving to a basing strategy, looking at the canal enhancements that we need as a whole. We will continue on this path. I understand the study that we have authorized today even on the 11.3 scope, will also allow us to look at canal. So at this point, we are not restricted and we will be able to enhance the structures and the canals upstream, downstream as needed as part of this current effort that we're discussing here today. I'm not sure. Or what's to add into that?
What, I think
Is that council member first, Senator?
yeah,
Councilmember Fur, and then I'm hoping to wrap up the meeting in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Councilmember Fur, you're recognized, sir.
I think what I'm trying to understand, Dr. Moran, is if the counties might be willing to go in on helping pay for the study. Do you think the South Florida Water Management District might be able to match funds to do that?
Well, I'm not positioned.
And I know
to
you're not,
do
I know
that
you
now
can't, I know you
here.
can't answer.
We have been discussing multiple funding strategies
So-
for this and the other projects.
So to get to
That's a
that,
firm maybe.
okay.
Same
So,
thing we got from Dade County, a firm maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe if we go step by step and then this regional planning council says this is an alternative way to go about doing this, and we vote for that.
Mhm.
We say, let's go forward, encourage both counties to seek alternative monies to pay for a study, looking to both county and South Florida Water Management District as potential sources. That's what I would like to see happen. And then we can present a proposal to South Florida Water Management District. Miami-Dade would have to look at this independently. We would have to look at this independently from Broward. But I think combined, if you have the Regional Planning Council saying, we're encouraging this.
Right, and that's what the agenda item said.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right,
so
Councilmember
so
Fur, prior to our leaving this topic, I will ask for a motion on
Okay.
what you just said, basically. Let me ask Major Bell, if he has any comments, I want to hear from him. And if Tim Geisen has any additional comments, because we have not heard from either of them yet. So Major Bell or Mr. Geisen, do either of you have any additional commentary? Major Bell, are you there? Major Bell, if you're there, are you still on mute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we
Yes,
can.
sir. It's Major.
So I appreciate everyone's time this morning to allow us to be a part of this. So we're looking for any support we can get, and getting this study to the finish line. And that can be from different sources. Our state non-sponsor, federal sponsor is of South Florida Water Management District. So anything that you can do to support them will support us to be able to come to a resolution on this. Tim Dyson can speak into more details on the system and how the impacts from an engineering standpoint, hydraulic standpoint can get after your concerns with flooding. But we do not see issues just like South Florida Water Management District has discussed with flooding by increasing the pumps systems overall. Over.
So, Major Bell, are you saying that if the studies would, as I believe Dr. Moran said, that the studies would include not only the cost of the salinity control structures, but also the downstream or the seaward banks of the canals, if necessary, to prevent flooding? Is that accurate?
I defer that to Tim Dyson, our PM. He can talk the details for you. Over.
Thank you, Major.
Yeah.
Mr. Geisen, can you answer that last question?
Sure, absolutely. And I think Dr. Moran touched on it. Part of the solution will be looking at risk that can be transferred downstream to make sure that we're not causing additional flooding. So it would be a more comprehensive type solution where we would look at not only capacity of the canal and structure upstream needed to pass that water, but risk to the downstream areas as well. And if there are additional features that are needed to make sure that the system would work properly, those would be part of that solution.
Excellent. Did you have any additional? Thank you, Mr. Geisen. Did you have any additional comments you wish to make?
Sure. I would like to make one additional comment. I think you had heard me speak last year at one of your meetings, talking about the community resilience and how it takes partners at all different levels of government to build that. And I think this is a great example of how that partnership can really work. We're in a pretty sticky situation, and having support at all levels of government to each help tackle the solution, this is how we can work forward and be successful in the long run. So I appreciate all of the discussion today.
Thank you, Mr. Geisen. I appreciate that. Were there any other comments from any of the other SFRPC members before I ask for a motion?
Can I ask just one question?
Councilmember.
Is that Councilmember Kaufman?
Yes.
I probably missed the purpose of this study. What is the purpose of this study?
Shall I?
Yes, please, of course.
So Jennifer Gerardo, so again, the Central Southern Flood Control Project is this elaborate network of the canals and those control gates. And as a function of sea level rise, the gates that typically open to release the floodwaters either can't open because the water on the downstream side is too high, or because we've lost the gradient between upstream and downstream, it doesn't drain as fast. So the purpose of this study is to do a reassessment of the system today, the landscape today, the environmental conditions today, and moving forward to meet the flood protection needs through the improvements of this system, accounting for the 2070-2100 timeframe.
Don't they require an update of the 48 study? No?
Yeah, principally it is. It's an update of what that original work was.
This they have to update.
Things have
Right.
changed.
If we're going to need the Army Corps or US Congress to spend perhaps $10 billion in improvements to the salinity control structures and presumably the smaller canals and the banks, there needs to be the engineering study first to show what's necessary and how much it will cost. And that's the study we're discussing. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I will ask either, since I don't have it in front of me, either Isabel or Sam to review the action item that is on the agenda, and then I think it may need to be amended. Can you please read what today's action item is?
Yes, Chair. So agenda item 4H just basically gave a little summary of what you just heard. And the last paragraph by staff says, following the conclusion of the presentation and conversation, the SFRPC Board may wish to convey its recommendations to Broward and Miami-Dade counties, including a possible recommendation urging the counties to use local funding to expedite level 3 engineering studies in partnership with the South Florida Water Management District to position the salinity control structures or the flow zone ones for federal funding on an expedited basis. The recommendation was provide council staff with guidance as to next steps.
Okay, I believe based on what we've heard and what Commissioner Furr has said, that what we should be doing is passing a, similar to what you had originally written, that the SFRPC pass a resolution urging Dade and Broward, I don't think it affects Monroe, urging Dade and Broward counties to work in partnership with the South Florida Water Management District to fund the preliminary studies so that we can get hopefully on the 2028 program that we will need to get to for the WRDA 2028 that we're urging the counties and South Florida Water Management District to work together to get that study funded immediately. Commissioner Furr, was there anything you think needed to be added to that?
No, I think you captured it.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
I was just going to comment that that motion is coming from Commissioner Furr. I heard a second. Who is that? Is that Commissioner Ferland?
Orland second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Is there any debate? Seeing no debate, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Sure, that adopted unanimously. Isabel, please prepare a letter for my signature,
Yes.
showing what that was adopted unanimously. And
Here's the timer. See, we'll make sure to do this very quickly, okay?
please, thank you. And I'd like, on behalf of the SFRPC, I'd like to thank both Dr. Jurado, actually no, I'd like to thank Dr. Jurado, the Army Corps, and the South Florida Water Management District, and Miami-Dade Office of Resilience for all attending today's meeting. We have one more item on our agenda before we adjourn. Hopefully it'll be quick. Mr. Tart, are you there?
I am.
Could you please present both the SFRPC revolving loan fund and the CARES Act revolving loan?
Hi, Greg Ross, Immobilization.
Greg, you're still,
Good. Who am I
Greg,
speaking
you're
with?
still on. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, council members. As senior loan officer and manager of the revolving loan fund programs, I'd like to share a brief update. On January 10th, the RLF loan administration team participated in a joint small business technical workshop with our partners M. Gill & Associates called Get in Gear for the New Year. The webinar provided technical assistance to over 50 small businesses on topics such as underwriting credit, tips on cybersecurity, marketing and building websites, and construction bonding assistance. Marie Gill from M. Gill & Associates and Lisa Mooney from Centennial Bank, whom are both RLF board members, participated in the technical assistance webinar. At our most recent RLF board meeting, which was held on January 16th, the RLF board approved $1.1 million in financing to two new nonprofit organizations, the Housing Foundation of America and Community Partners in South Florida. These two borrowers specialize in housing services and counseling to underserved families in South Florida, and are truly grateful to the SFRPC and the RLF programs that are helping address affordable housing. In regards to the CARES Act RLF program to date, the program provided $7.17 million to 34 businesses and continues to perform well as an A-rated program by the EDA for their 2023 annual review. In regards to the traditional RLF program to date, the program provided $5.5 million to 30 businesses. It should be noted the RLF administration team has encountered an increase in small businesses facing financial challenges now as a result of higher operating costs, interest rates, and an overall economic slowdown. Just due to the nature of the RLF program, just keep in mind, we support businesses that are generally unable to obtain financing from traditional lenders. Those two borrowers notified the SFRPC loan administration team by the names of Cornerstone Paving and Caesar that they had filed for bankruptcy in December, just to make people aware. Cornerstone Paving will be liquidating all their assets, and a portion of that will be remitted to the SFRPC to pay down their outstanding balance. And Caesar has conveyed they wish to modify their payment terms in order to repay their full obligation. Goran Charov, our legal counsel, has been engaged to represent the SFRPC on these collection efforts, and further details can be found in your attached RLF status report. And finally, just in regards to our affordable housing initiative by the Southeast Florida Community Development Fund, the team is in the process of closing a new construction loan to the Housing Foundation of America, a HUD-approved nonprofit, to assist with 4 new single-family homes in West Park. And furthermore, and lastly, the Housing Finance Authority of Broward County is in the final stages of awarding 8 new vacant lots to 2 of our home builders in South Florida. Minority Builders Coalition, and the Housing Foundation of America. I just want to thank you again for all the support. We're making tremendous amount positive impact in our community. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Tart. And again, obviously, we know that people, we're never going to get 100% repayment on the RLF because the people that are getting loans from us are ones that are not as creditworthy. Are there any questions for Mr. Tart? No questions. In that case, show the report adopted. Last item is I just want to go over the under announcements and attachments, the upcoming meeting dates. We have changed the joint SFRPC TCRPC joint meeting date to Friday, March 15th. And that will be in West Palm Beach. Do we have an exact location, Isabel?
No, Senator, they're having conversations right now with the FAU and another locality.
Okay, well, it will be then in Palm Beach County, not necessarily West Palm Beach, but possibly. And we have not yet finalized the topic. We're working on that. And the SFRPC Regional Conference, it will be in May. That's the one that Senator Garcia has taken the lead on. That one is on housing specifically for people with mental health issues. Is there any additional, are there any additional items, questions, or comments before we adjourn today's meeting? Isabel, did you have any report? Sam, did you have any report?
Nothing, I can't wait till next time.
I'll defer, Senator Geller, just to let you know that there's a motion for a summary judgment hearing on the Dawson case, which takes up multiple pages of our monthly report before the judge on February the 9th. Mr. Tart will be in court with us to observe the activities. Enough said here.
Very good. Is there anything else to come in front of us before we adjourn? If not, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. Please show this meeting adjourned at 12:12 p.m.
Feel better.
Thanks, and I'll see Commissioner Furrow. See you tomorrow.